Welcome to the TomorrowZone Catalyst Podcast. I'm your host, Deborah Reuben. Let's face it, our world seems to praise constant motion. But what if the boldest move is to pause? What if stepping away isn't the end, but it's a reset that fuels your next chapter? Today, we're going to explore just that. What happens when you stop chasing momentum and create it instead? My guest today is Eileen Schoonmaker. She is the president of the Americas at PEAC Solutions and a seasoned leader in the finance and leasing industry with more than 35 years of experience. So she's a wisdom powerhouse. She has held executive roles at global organizations, including DLL, AT&T Leasing, and guiding large teams and shaping strategic operations across the U.S. In our episode today, she's going to bring a phenomenal perspective that goes beyond the resume. After stepping away from her career for 2 years, Eileen returned with renewed clarity, energy, and insight. And so she's going to share today about what that pause taught her about leadership, intention, and how to really move forward with purpose. Eileen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here, Deb.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this conversation because when we were talking and you were sharing about your experience, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think so many professionals need to hear this, no matter where you are on that professional journey. I think that your experience can resonate on all levels. So I'm curious if you could share a little bit about your story. What did you discover during your time away from the equipment finance industry? And how did that shape how you're leading now?
Yeah. So if I could, I want to step back for just a moment because when this, what I now call a pause, started, it was actually a retirement. And I retired on almost to the day of my 40th anniversary in the equipment finance industry. So I had spent my entire career in the industry, and I did it, first because it was a job, and then it became a career. And so I love round numbers, and 40 seemed like the best time to retire. What I realized was that I used to think that retirement was a finish line. That's always the way that it was. It was the moment when you stepped off the treadmill and you could finally rest. And after a 40-year career, as I mentioned, I actually discovered something different, that my retirement wasn't actually an ending. It was a pause. And I think you were the one that called it that when we talked a couple of months ago. So while I first thought that I was done, 2 years later, what I realized was I was simply resetting. I needed to reset. And I think that's the beauty of it. And in that space that was created, the stillness, the need not to have my schedule in 15-minute increments for 10 hours a day, in that stillness, I learned how to breathe again, how to rest, how to reflect. I got sleep, but there was something else. I started to listen better. And in there, what I figured was, as I said, in the 40 years, that at first it was a job and then it became a career. And there was a moment at which I realized it was a calling. Oh. And so there's this amazing expression. I just heard it recently that said, you can retire from a job, but you never retire from a calling. And so there it was after 2 years, but not during the 2 years, by the way. So you then asked me, I think, what happened in the 2 years.
Yeah. How did that experience now shape how you're leading today?
Yeah. So first came the rest part, and then came the awareness part. So I learned to actually stay in the moment. And I remember my kids as they were growing up, they would often say to me, Mom, come back, because I'd be in the middle of a sentence or a conversation and my mind started to wander, and it was always wandering into the future. So I was constantly living in the future. And during this time, just I learned again to stop and appreciate the different moments. So some of it was spent in just play, just absolute play. I mean, the getting up in the morning and deciding, well, this is what I want to do today, instead of having that schedule, or taking trips with each of my kids and my husband, of course, as well. But having that time with them and then thinking, well, what are all these things that I remember I wanted to do and I wanted to be, if I ever had time, while I was rushing through life. And I tried things without worrying whether I was going to be successful at them or not. So I tried learning a new language. It was okay, but
what language did you pursue?
Spanish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Spanish. And so what I realized was I needed to immerse myself in the language. And that's sort of how you grow. That's really how you learn things, which was true of the industry as well. But I also thought, well, I want to teach. I think that I had a felt need to teach and mentor, because I felt that that was a big part of my leadership brand during my career. And so I volunteered with a national nonprofit called SCORE, and I mentored entrepreneurs in my community. And it was unbelievably rewarding to go through a journey with them as they were starting a business, or they were trying to grow a business, or they had an idea and started the business and it actually wasn't viable and needed to close it or to sell it, or whatever the case. That was amazing. And then the second thing was that I taught the Stripes course. So I partnered with Lisa Rafter and came up with a curriculum, and we introduced it in 2 cohorts ago. And together with another colleague in the industry, we were both paused. And we decided, what the hell, let's do it. Let's give something back. And I think it was from that this something else started in there, which eventually became what I'm doing today.
Awesome. So that's so awesome. Well, I'm curious. I mean, such a wide-ranging experience while you were away from the industry, learning and getting immersed. But also, I love what you said. That you, in the stillness, you learn how to breathe again and to really listen. And I think that's really awesome, because it's listening to what you really wanted. I think we get so caught up in our day to day, and we don't even hear what our own heart is saying. So what a phenomenal practice of just being present.
Right.
So what drew you to return, and why PEAC?
So during the mentoring and teaching, what I kept going back to was this idea of exploring, what was this calling? What was I feeling? And what I realized, and I don't think anyone talks enough about this, it's always, you hear the term burnout. And as I've talked to a lot of people who also, have gone through this experience, the idea of burnout is real, but maybe it's not burnout. Maybe it's you become uninspired, which is okay, So what I looked for were the things that inspired me, and that was what I concentrated on as I moved forward. So what I was inspired by was connecting with generations who were focused on the future, but in a way that the human connection to it. And so as I was mentoring, I was connecting to that. As I was teaching, I was connecting to that. And what I realized was, oh, okay, I don't have anything to prove anymore as a leader, but I do have something to give as a mentor and a teacher to the generation of leaders who are coming after us. And it was probably the part that was undone when I retired that I wanted to finish or get back to. And so that's how PEAC came. So the thing about in the stillness and in that spot where you're listening, it's funny how the universe answers you. And the answer came just a phone call from a colleague and who became a friend over the years. And it was hey, what are you doing? And would you be interested in talking about some stuff? And of course. And that call came from Bill Stevenson, who's the CEO of PEAC, my former CEO at DLL, and over the years, a friend and mentor and coach. And when we talked, what immediately struck me was a build phase, and a build phase in which mentoring and coaching and teaching and leading were all rolled up into one.
Wow.
And the combination of what you would put together as contributing to the business, because what I do know is that businesses are not successful unless there's a human element to it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I know I do anything well, I do that well. I do relationships well. I do mentoring well. I understand the connection between human value and economic value.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the human value can create exponential economic value. And so given the opportunity to lead a group of multi-generational high potentials in a build phase, come on.
Let me at it.
Come on. But always practicing, still bringing, what I've learned in the past 2 years to listen really, really hard, always and first. And to just enjoy the moments that are good. And even when they're not so good, to be okay with that and to teach people all of those things. It just doesn't get any better.
Wow. Well,
it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah. Welcome back. It's so interesting that, you're talking about how it's interesting the way the universe answers, but I think that there's something in us too that facilitates that, because when you get still and you pause and you really get connected to what is it that you really want and you commit to that, now your brain knows to look for it. And when that door opens, when that opportunity presents itself, you see it.
Yeah.
But maybe you couldn't see it as clearly before,
Now,
And so such an exciting story of how that played out. So I'm curious, what excites you most about leading in your new chapter, and how is it different from past roles?
I think what it is so even in this time, what I realize is my experience has not been erased, right? It's amplified by what happened to me in the 2-year pause that I had, right? And it reminded me that the growth doesn't always happen in motion, that it happens in the stillness. So when you say that about what excites me now, it's sort of sharing that experience with people. And sometimes I don't think pauses can be done in a number of ways. Like it doesn't have to be a retirement. It could be a sabbatical. It could be a long vacation. There are many ways to do that.
Yeah. I
But
just did one last weekend,
yes,
a
yeah,
whole day to myself.
a day.
Yeah. Well, right now we were in a growth phase. So
Right.
just getting that, as you know.
Well,
You're
next time
right.
you'll
There's so
do
many ways
2
to do
days.
it.
Right. There are absolutely ways to do it. But I think the other piece that you said was you said you let your mind go there. But actually, I have come to the conclusion that you need to let your heart go there.
Ooh, say more.
And your mind will catch up. Your minds will catch up, and your mind will remember the experience that you have, but your heart makes you treat it in a different way. And
That's
so,
interesting. What does that look like?
right, what does it look like? So, what it looks like is Eileen is the same person at home that she is in the office. So, when I talk to people here, there is a lot of really open conversation. There is often joking that is going on. And there is, okay, so what if this doesn't work? Or who's going to care if we, run into the wall? It's human. It's human to experience all of these things. And I want everyone to experience that, because otherwise, what's happening is they're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, think of your own experience. I spent probably far too much of my career afraid
Yeah.
to make mistakes, because, oh my God, if I did, someone would think that I wasn't a good leader. Or no, now it's mistakes are going to happen. If you took the initiative to make the mistake, then in here you felt that that was a way to go. And in here you said, okay, let's go. And if it didn't work, you're like, oh crap, well, that didn't work. All right, well, then let's get up and we're going to do something
Mm-hmm.
else.
Yeah. Learning
So
forward.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you use the term awesome. It's all awesome.
Yeah.
Every little bit of it. Every little bit of it. Right.
Yeah.
Every little bit of it.
Well, and oh my gosh. So, like, you've had so many mic drop moments already. I've got a whole page of notes. So, like, your teaching and mentorship calling is coming out even in this podcast episode. Earlier in your career, it can be easy to get caught up in fear mode.
Mhm.
And that constrains your possibilities. But then, I wish I would have understood this a long time ago, that whenever I lean in to those
Mhm.
things that in the past would have been fear mode, I reevaluate, and I'm looking at it instead and going, okay, well, is this really fear? Is this just discomfort? Because I haven't tried this before. And then I can crank up curiosity
Mm-hmm.
and go for it. And now
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, yeah, it might not work, but then I'll learn whether it
Right.
does or doesn't, and then we can adjust and go from there. But man, I really wish I would have known that, Eileen, like back in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Where would we be today,
I think that there's hope for the generations that are coming up in leadership. There are other things, of course, to work on because, all generations inherit the trauma of the one before them, right? To some degree or another. And fear is actually the right word, but knowing that fear is triggered long, 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 long gazillions of years ago, and it is your body telling you that there could be danger. And so you get the fight or flight, and most folks will go for the flight piece. I mean, that's how I was, right? But then there's also the other piece where you recognize that and your body sends this adrenaline through you, but that could be excitement.
Yes.
So maybe if you think about the fear as excitement and normal, really normal, everybody goes through it. And then, kind of like it's either get a friend to help you or it's really the practice because it's practice makes progress. It doesn't make perfect.
Yep.
That was the other thing I gave up. I wish I had given up a long, long time ago.
Absolutely.
And realize that, when you see, Olympians and stuff like, I mean, they just practice, 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 practice all the time. And they fail a lot before they win. And even when they win, they can fail the next time and will still get back up and do it again. Well, there are all those, is everyone afraid? Hell yeah. Do you do it anyway? Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what, and whether you have the code word for it or, I mean, any trick that you can come up with that just says, well, we're just going to do it anyway. And if we fail, it won't be because we didn't try.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I think that mindset is just so important. One of the things that you were talking about that you learned in your pause was being present. And so I was curious, there's so much going on in the world today, and we do need to think about the future. We want to shape a more awesome future. And that's why I wake up every morning. But how do you balance the urgency of today with the need to shape tomorrow and not lose yourself in the process?
Well, I think being present is connected to being mindful, and being mindful is being focused. And oh my God, practicing that is because generally speaking, society rewards people who multitask, who, work 80 hours a week, who, I mean, it's constant. Well, this is where this is where I feel very blessed. And this is where that wisdom, remember, well, you don't know yet, but I know. I remember when I thought, oh, by a certain age, I'm going to be so wise. Well, I wasn't, but it does come, it does come. And you really think about some of the things that I learned, like I meditate all the time, but always in the morning.
Mm.
And always in the morning is I'm a big well, first I am a morning person, but how you start your day matters.
Yes.
Yeah, when people say, like what's your routine?
Mm-hmm.
I have one. I love mornings. I get up, I make my bed. So,
Yep. Got to get that
and
win.
yeah, got to get that win. And I meditate because not a lot. And I'm not great at it. I mean, I'm not going to go off and do it for, a whole week, but I just really love everything about breathing, right? which we don't do, and then the focus. And when that's how you stay present. But I think the other thing is to turn your sight to something around you that is just astounding. I mean, in life, I know I have far less years ahead of me than are behind me, right? So I don't have time to waste on, stuff that it really doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't, they don't, and everybody decides differently what matters to them. But for me, I'm telling you, I could get distracted by the moon and be fully present and looking at the moon. But I could easily be that way with listening to one of your podcasts, because I'm just like, that's really cool. Whatever it is that gets you grounded and keeps your attention on something is practice for staying in the moment.
Yeah. Well, and I think that in our world today where there are so many forces of distraction and even apps and experiences designed to capture your attention, when you take ownership of capturing that for yourself, to be present and through practice, it really is like building a muscle to do it, but you can actually train yourself to focus. And I really think that focus is one of the superpowers to take on the future, because
Right.
so many are losing it. And I love that you shared your morning routine. That's so cool. What do you wish more leaders understood about the power of just stepping back and resetting to move forward?
I knew you were going to ask me this question, of course. So I would say that if you find yourself in a pause, whether it's chosen or it's unexpected, right? I would say, don't rush it. Don't rush it. Instead, try to honor it as the quiet space where, like, the next version of you is getting ready to be written.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right? I mean, yeah, I mean, you and the other thing I would say that I truly feel is that you will not, I swear to you, you will not lose your edge. You'll actually sharpen it
Wow.
because you're focused, because this and this go together.
And for those who are just listening and not watching, she pointed to her head and her heart. That congruence is everything.
Yep.
It
Oh,
really
yeah.
is. And it's really easy to lose that
Mm-hmm.
in the busyness of the day to day. And you have to step aside into some stillness to find
Yes.
it again.
Yeah.
Which is really
Yeah.
powerful, Eileen. So I just want to wrap up with one final question. Given everything that we've discussed, what's one thing that leaders or professionals at any point in their journey could do today to shape a more awesome future?
Again, create some stillness in your day, because these are, I know, my situation will be different from anyone else's, and that's just it. Don't try to borrow anyone's. You can take it in if something feels right to you, but create your own and just be mindful and create, the space where you feel this is right. This is me being me, and me knowing that I can add so much value if I don't worry about the things that I can't control, and focus instead on being in the moment and making it better for yourself, which is going to make it better for everyone else. And those are the moments of awesome that you're going to remember.
It is just beautiful. Eileen, I just want to thank you so much for taking some time to share your insights with us.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure always. Yeah. And I'm so happy to be back.
Well, I'm glad you're back. Welcome back. Make it awesome happen.
Yeah.
To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. I just want to invite you to like, subscribe, share this episode with someone you know who might benefit from a reminder like this to take a pause, to reset, to find yourself and find what's next. Until next time, stay curious and choose to make awesome happen.